Welcome to another episode of the GayBarchives Show, where we explore gay history one bar at a time. I'm your host, Art Smith, and our guests today are Taylor Shubert, Sam Benedict, Daniel Nardicio, and Adam Klesh, who are opening a brand new bar in New York City called RedEye NY. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a brand new gay venue in New York City called RedEye NY. And we are being joined by Adam Klesh, Sam Benedict, Daniel Nardicio, and Taylor Shubert. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hello.
Hey. Thanks for having us.
So I'm always excited when there's something new to talk about, something that, is fresh blood in our community, because, over the last couple of decades, we have lost so many venues. And specifically during COVID, it just seemed like they were dropping like flies. So I'm going to ask each one of you to do a brief introduction so everybody knows what your background is before we delve into the bar.
Sure.
So who wants to start?
I'll start. My name is Daniel Nardicio. I'm a top. I like long walks on the beach and nude disco frisbee. No, seriously. My name is Daniel Nardicio. I'm a nightlife promoter and producer of concerts and lots of parties in New York, Fire Island, sometimes in New Orleans, and other places around the country.
I'm Sam. I have been working with Daniel for 9 years?
Something like that.
Almost
feels like a lot.
Yeah, almost a decade. I've been with him for a long time, working for Daniel, and then over the last couple of years, we've partnered on different things, including RedEye now. My big thing that I bring to RedEye is I'm the beverage director. That's kind of my biggest purview, in addition to helping with producing shows and bringing ideas to the table. That's kind of primarily my lane.
Taylor.
My name is Taylor Shubert, and I'm just here for the coffee. No, I've worked in nightlife for too long, but about a decade. Started out bartending and then became partners with this motley crew, and I love helping put on parties. We throw the legendary D World Fire Island underwear party. We do a Devil Wears Nada party. We produce Bathhouse and Beyond. So we're event producers by trade, but also we're seasoned bartenders. Me personally, I am a political junkie, so I'm pretty involved in New York City politics. I serve on New York County Committee and am on the board of Stonewall Dems. So, I run the gamut, and I'm happy to be here.
All right.
And I'm Adam Klesh. Once again, started as a bartender 22 years ago, started getting into bar and club renovation and design in about 2005. I've been doing that since. Opened up a bar in Berlin, Germany 4 years ago called Tipsy Bear. Was not a victim to the pandemic, thank God. God bless social democracy. The government helped us stay open and keep things rolling in the right direction. And was losing my mind a bit during COVID, so came back to work with Daniel and the boys to facilitate my creative outlets, and basically I'm the one that holds it all together. I just handle the building and the construction and making sure that things are up to code and we can put lights and sound where we want it.
The literal glue.
Literally the glue.
Like you want to.
We'll just call you MacGyver.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I feel like it.
So now that I know your backgrounds, I'm guessing that if I were sitting over there on the sofa, I could be served up some hellacious cocktails and have some fabulous entertainment just from the people in that room and the people that they know.
You pretty much get fully serviced.
That's after hours.
Yeah.
We're
The table won't wobble.
Oh,
but
I
the
meant
noise
full
will.
service. I'm sorry, full service.
full service. What we're really excited about here at RedEye is that, you know, it's around the clock venture and anything can happen. You show up in the morning, it's a coffee bar, full service coffee bar where you can, you know, grab something on your way to work. You can stop in and, you know, just chill, have an espresso, write a script. You know, we're going to be having rehearsals in our dance club area. So it's really kind of like a gay community center. And then throughout the day, it transitions into something maybe a little bit more sexy. We in the afternoon, we're going to have live podcasts. We already have one in house called Thought Light. It's like gives the New York City buzz. And then at nighttime, at the beginning of the nighttime, we're going to be producing our famous, you know, cabaret series, our Legends series, both on Fire Island and here in the city. And that's going to be like the best of Broadway cabaret acts, big bands that we love. And then at night, it's a full, you know, disco. It's just like a dance club. And that's just upstairs. Downstairs is the cockpit. You want to tell them about the cockpit, or is that another episode?
Yeah,
We
the
can touch on that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe I've touched on this in other conversations with Daniel and Frankie Sharp, is he's involved in the cockpit concept, right?
He's
No?
doing his New Year's Eve party down there for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's just producing our New Year's downstairs. So we kind of divided and conquered because it's a huge space, but it's really exciting because we can invite in other producers to be able to kind of play and have fun. But downstairs is the cockpit, and that was actually Adam's idea, which is really fun. You know, upstairs is like kind of RedEye. It's like the airport lounge, very sleek, sexy, but a little buttoned up and classy. And then downstairs,
It's where you find the hot mechanics.
Exactly.
It's the airplane hangar.
in the cockpit. When the flight's delayed, you got to go down into the cockpit.
Yeah. It's the idea of kind of bringing you know, always keeping with this idea of being transported somewhere. We wanted to lay into this airplane lounge sort of theme without hitting it on the nose or being too tongue in cheek. So it was the idea that we could bring in a European vibe for a place that was going to be open from a late happy hour time, somewhere in the 5 to 8 range. We haven't quite figured out. We're going to let the space speak for itself. But that you could have something that was a little more masculine or dark or seedier. You know, you tend to stay away from the word masculine because all are welcome. But, you know, in the gay community, those who have a little more open-mindedness tend to, you know, identify that way. But just that we could bring this European, darker, edgier vibe. It's not going to have the beautiful cocktail menu that Sam has upstairs, but it's going to have, you know, great beats, great service. But people of a different mind may venture down the stairs.
We're bringing Berlin to Port Authority.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So I noticed Daniel's eyes lit up when you said tongue in cheek. Did that have something to do with the comment specifically, or were you just being a little
Probably holding in some dad joke.
No,
put your mind in the gutter again?
everything we do is sort of with a wink, you know what I mean? So it's like, I like when people get that. I just did an interview recently about the cockpit, and I said it's going to be like seedy and sexy, but with a smile. I just like the idea that everything's a little bit, at the end of the day, you know, nightlife is like, pleasure is my business, right? So it's like, I try not to take it super seriously. I think it should be fun. I've often seen, like, we know this from a friend of ours who does parties that did something with us this summer, who shall remain nameless. If a promoter is not having a good time and is just annoying, then the party just has a way of being annoying.
Right.
So I think it's a good time, you know.
So from what I've heard so far, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on in that building. And before we get too far into the details of what these specific events are, and I want to talk a little bit about the bar itself. So where exactly is it located in Manhattan?
41st and 9th Avenue.
Like across the street from Port Authority, like
Literally.
you watch all the buses leave from our front door. It's insanity. And all day long up and down the street, there's like people rolling suitcases, coming from Newark, traveling. It's at the time when Taylor came up with the name RedEye NY, I was a little like, I don't know. And a friend of ours said, oh, that's a horrible name. Now it really fits. Like it makes sense because there's so much travel around us. Everyone's going somewhere, and the energy is like palpable.
Especially
and so,
now
you know,
that, like, post-COVID, everything's kind of opened back up. It does feel so kinetic. It
Yeah.
feels like like people are just coming and going and coming and going, and that's so much of New York City nightlife. You know, in New York, people don't really park and just stay somewhere all night. It's like they bar hop. They're, you know, gonna go to one bar and get another bar and then maybe pop in a sex club. And so there's this kinetic energy in New York that I'm really excited to be a part
Well,
of.
that would be more coming and coming.
Coming,
Not coming and going.
Well, and I mean, we also
Or coming and coming and going.
we as a team kind of hate the word homage, because there's a way that you can polish tradition and really revive things. And, you know, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, there were tons of homosexual men that were forced out by their family, and they would get on a Greyhound or an Amtrak. And this was their first New York City experience. Port Authority, the gateway to Hell's Kitchen. So what more appropriate than to offer something that is so LGBTQIA plus leaning with the arts and the sex and body positivity forwardness of what we do? It just seemed the perfect landmark place to really revive for what, you know, 6 decades had been the landing place for safe space searching homosexuals.
Well,
And
I
we're
must,
very,
I must
we're
admit,
okay on that note, we painted the building bright red, so you will have no issue finding us. It's red from the top to bottom.
so I know when I first spoke to Daniel in his previous interview, which focused more on some other New York City club adventures of his past and the underwear party, he mentioned to me RedEye, and I guess for whatever reason, I was thinking of more, you know, the conjunctivitis variety or something. I wasn't exactly sure where I was going with that, but or the inebriated state at the end of the night where your eyes are all bloodshot.
Yeah.
But I think this gives you, now that I know that the position of the building, where it is and what the focus is, you know, there's so many opportunities for, as you mentioned earlier, Adam, tongue-in-cheek remarks involving everything from, you know, baggage to pat downs to whatever that you can incorporate and kind of build on that, so everybody that sees RedEye knows what the connection is.
Right. Well, as an example, we acquired these galley carts from American Airlines through a connection of Adam's, and we had those, you know, redone and vinyled, but they're authentic airline carts that come down, and those will be coming down during service.
Yeah.
So the idea is we want to have lots of experiences within the space that are a nod to that. There's obviously a point where you go too far and it becomes a little
like when Taylor does the Mile High Club in the bathrooms.
You know, we walk that line, you know, and, you know, maybe sometimes we'll overstep it and sometimes we won't go far enough. But, you know, we don't want to just be like an airline bar, but there are really obvious moments and opportunities to lean into that, to, like, to your point, to kind of communicate what it is we're doing.
So how big is this space?
It's just under 5,000 square feet. When you go wall to wall, we're somewhere in about the 4,600 range. Now, obviously, you have to include restrooms, coat checks, maintenance rooms, and stuff like that. I would say that the public space lends itself to about 3,000 square feet of walking, sitting, drinking, dancing.
And it's kind of divided into 3 spaces. It's the coffee bar in the front that is all the coffee service, and then our you know, main bar. And there's the back area, which is like a really versatile, like, kind of club space with a huge stage, a dressing room, and then downstairs in the cockpit, it's just like a big, somewhat phallic shaped bar and a dance floor. So it's kind of, we can have 3 separate things going on all at once, which is great.
So on the top floor, there are what, 2 floors or 3?
2.
2 floors. So upstairs, what is the general vibe? What's the decor up there? What's the concept of that space?
You got to come check it out.
We wanted it to be clean, like European and sleek, you know, not to feel like an airline lounge, but we wanted it to be sleek. We're going to have it open during the day. So unlike a lot of queer spaces where, you know, myriad sins are hidden by dark lighting, we're open 21 hours a day. So we wanted to make sure things could look nice in the natural light. So it's much sleeker in that regard. So, you know, grays and blacks and chromes and We have our color palette that we've, been careful to appoint in different areas, but essentially you'll walk in the front bar, there's the coffee bar, a big, beautiful red espresso machine, our big, long, 30-foot long bar, and then that leads into the main club room, which actually closes off. So then you get into the club space, which also doubles as our theater space. We have a large, tall stage with a dressing room behind it. So we can do cabaret shows, ticketed events in the evening. And then all those chairs that you have out for these shows all get tucked under the stage in these huge drawers. And then all of a sudden opens up to be a dance floor. So at any point in the day, it can be any number of configurations, but the spaces all can act independently or together, depending on what it is we have going on.
Which is a brilliant concept. I have mentioned that to numerous bar owners over the years. I've been involved in some sort of fashion or other since the 80s with gay club owners being involved either as a magazine publisher or journalist or whatever. And I have seen so many people fail because they build a fabulous 5,000 square foot space that is one big room.
That was one purpose. Exactly. That's the big mistake. We've learned from our mistakes in other experiences. When I had Club Coming, it was like when you had an event, a ticketed event, if people walked up just to have a cocktail and you had a ticketed event, they were turned away, and you lose those people because they don't want to come back because they're not sure. With us, you're able to come in and still have a drink or go downstairs, which will not have a lot of programming, for happy hour and stuff, and you can still go in. It's just the back room where we'll have ticketed events.
Right. And beside that, earlier in the evening or in the middle of the afternoon, the bar is probably not going to be packed to capacity like it would be on a weekend night. So you don't want somebody walking into 5,000 square feet of space and seeing even 50 people because it looks empty. So by being able to close it off and schedule events in different places, you get to keep the intimacy of the space without making everybody feel like they're alone on an island with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and also I feel the culture's just changed a lot. You know what I mean? Like people listen to podcasts a lot, right? And the ability to go watch some of your favorite podcasts is just new. It's interesting, I love the whole podcast platform. I think it's really fascinating. The fact that you can get information out there, or people can get well known. They don't have to have like a journalism degree. It fascinates me, so there's that. And of course we love coffee, and it's a real community building thing, coffee. It helps poorer countries when you buy coffee from them. It has a lot of, community sort of togetherness in the gay community. It's a great way for people that don't drink to meet.
Yeah, that's one of the other big components there, is it really bridges that gap. There are a lot of people in the queer community that do not drink, and the only thing that queer nightlife generally has to offer them are drink-oriented events. And by incorporating coffee and espresso into that, you're giving somebody something of value that isn't just, a seltzer or a Diet Coke. They can actually have something that they're going to enjoy and still participate in whatever's happening.
And I think to tip our hat as well, we tend to stay very conscious with people of where we're spending our pink dollar. So like the person we purchase our coffee from is a gay coffee farmer who roasts his own and distributes his own beans and coffee. And more so, there's such a great sustainable story, rather than using those more chemically packed name brand energy drinks. He uses the coffee cherry from his trees and creates an energy drink called Lotus, which is just caffeine, no chemical. And you wouldn't notice the difference of the marketable taste. So it's really all around it. Hats off to Sam. He really did the research on finding that person. And the three of us flew out to Taylor, Sam, and I flew out to like learn how to be baristas, and basically where this thing comes from, its roots in the ground to the bag we get at the door.
So you can serve some fancy coffee drinks, right? You've got the full barista thing going down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No limits.
Now, one question I get from a lot of people who do go to coffee shops, particularly, it seems to come up with the one name brand giant that's out there.
Yeah.
When somebody orders a specialty coffee from you, I have two questions for you. Question number one is, do you get the ingredients right? And question number two is, do you get their name right?
Well, we won't be writing any names on cups. We tend to try to have a more personal experience. And I would say, you know, in the name of that giant, like we won't be over roasting, and there's probably not going to be, do you want to whip cream on that sort of thing. But I mean, you will be able to have really high quality ingredients. And Sam and Taylor have been wonderful. You know, they're so smart with making cocktails, and it's, you know, really what we're getting in has been carefully chosen. You know, the things are going to have natural ingredients. We're not putting a lot of fake shit or extra sugars that aren't required. For instance, one of our name brand, or one of our signature cocktails rather, is it's a beet juice derivative, you know, like actual boiled down beets. So it's not, you know, you're not getting high fructose corn syrup in one of our fancy caramel macchiatos. And the sizes are in English because it's just fucking annoying.
Well, I think those sizes in Italian-ish don't even make sense in Italian. So, you know,
They don't.
And
I'm
the
not
thing
exactly sure what tall means in Italian. I don't think it means
Starbucks is
anything.
meant for more like going, taking and going. They don't make it a very hospitable place, and that's not they do a great business. I would kill to do the business, trust me. But like, you go to a Starbucks, it's often cold. They don't want you staying very much. Like we're kind of, because we have that big back room during the day, you're welcome to come and stay for hours. You know what I mean? We want like people that are writing the next great American novel or writing a Broadway musical. You know, that's the kind of thing we love. Like, you know, Broadway actors between auditions coming to learn lines. I mean, we also have this live streaming capability, so you could come in and record a taped audition if you wanted to in our space. You know, we're not trying to be everything to everyone, but we are trying to sort of, we're morphing with the way the market has changed. Like mega clubs don't make sense in New York. 6 months ago, they announced a club called Nebula, and I'm not talking shit about them, but I haven't heard a word about them since. It was supposed to be like 25,000 square feet or something like that. New York doesn't, in Brooklyn they have them, but it doesn't really facilitate like in the city as much anymore. So we're kind of a few different smaller spaces.
Well, and from what I've seen, and there's other clubs that have done a similar concept to what you're doing. A while back, I interviewed two women from Washington, D.C. that opened up a bar called As You Are Bar. And while they're not going to the extent that you are, I don't think on the entertainment side, they still had that same kind of vibe of daytime coffee shop, study area, Wi-Fi, etc., accessible to people under the age of 21 in their case. I don't know if you can do that in your coffee shop, but that was, you can.
During the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Once half an hour hits, sorry, the kid's gotta go.
All right, but that still gives the younger people, especially the ones in their mid to late teens, an opportunity to dip their toe in that, you know, alphabet soup and find out where they belong and who they are and meet other people that can relate to their specific challenges at that time.
One thing that we've heard over and over again, and something that we've modeled this off of, was the big cup. We were just talking with one of our employees the other day about how that was, the big cup was so integral to their coming out at a time when there weren't a lot of resources about, you know, what is it like to be queer? What does this even mean? They were able to go to a space that wasn't surrounded by alcohol, that wasn't revolving around alcohol, to learn and to come out. And I think it's really exciting that we can kind of bring a piece of that back.
Well, I could relate to that too, because, you know, my first bar experience was 100 years ago, in the late 70s. And at that time, I went out 6 nights a week and I drank every night, and it didn't matter if I had to work the next morning because that was just what you did. You know, I lived in Atlanta most of that time. It was a different scene. But now when I go out, you know, I'm not saying I'm not going to have a couple of cocktails, but I would be just as happy to be socializing with, you know, some sort of a soft drink or a coffee or, you know, some other kind of beverage, because it's not about the alcohol anymore. DUI laws have gotten too strict. There's too many other things that happen. Sometimes, depending on the bar, you have seedy characters that come in and try to spike your drinks, and who knows what happens. So I try, you know, it's the alcohol isn't as much an important part to me anymore. But what I do like, and I'm sure because of the fact that you have baristas, you kind of probably mirror that in the bar area. You also probably serve craft cocktails, right?
Yeah, we also serve spirit-free cocktails as well, because there's a large contingent of people that want to go out, and whether they've had a drinking problem in the past or they just can see tomorrow better than most of us, they don't want to feel a certain way in the morning, or they want to go out on a Wednesday night with their friends, and staying out later means feeling better in the morning, and that often happens without drinks. And we've even done our research on that, finding some really well thought out, well researched, well produced spirit-free alcohols that we've been able to make some really nice cocktails with.
I like to say that it's very choose your own adventure, you know, like you can show up and you can order Irish coffee, you know, add that little spike if that's what's going to get you through the day, or you can, you know, just skip straight to happy hour. You know, it's really choose your own adventure, which goes along with RedEye. You're kind of transported to wherever you want to go. And Sam's done a really great job of curating a coffee inspired, espresso inspired cocktail menu. So we have our signature RedEye espresso martini, which is delicious.
Yeah, it's really good.
Sam has gotten us so tipsy over the past couple months, like fussing around with this drink. And he somehow managed to create the most caffeinated version. It's 2 shots of espresso and cold brew liqueur, and the best Stoli Elite vodka. So it's delicious. It's so strong and so like it's just worth every
Yeah,
cent.
a little dabble, do you?
Yeah, a dabble do you. But if that's what you choose for your adventure, then you are going to go all night.
Yeah.
It's so fun, and that's what I kind of love about this space, is that you get to decide what you want to do, where you want to go, what your, you know, destination is for the night.
And let me say, Sam, that Patrick Gallino appreciates the fact that you're using Stoli Elite.
We love Patrick. We're actually going to see Patrick later tonight.
Well, give him a huge hug for me.
Absolutely.
Funny story about Patrick, and I've interviewed him as well. He was an early interview for me, but I had known him on social media and through emails and text messages and such for quite a while, but I'd never actually met him. And about a year ago, I was with my roommate down in Wilton Manors, and we were crossing Wilton Drive, just at a street corner going across. I think we were heading toward Georgie's Alibi, and I had to stop because there was traffic. And I looked to my right, and I looked to my roommate, and I said, I think that's Patrick. And I said, hey, Patrick. And he turned around. I mean, he's so recognizable, the flamboyant outfits, that kind of modified.
She's a very handsome woman, yes.
And that modified mohawk hair going on, and an excellent ambassador for Stoli. He does a great job. So I'm really glad that you're using the products in the bar there as well. So somebody mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure, I think it might have been Taylor, that there's a little bit different menu going on there. Do you serve food in the main level, on the upstairs level?
It's going to be like small bites. Basically, you know, in New York, we joke about Cuomo chips, but one thing everyone discovered during the pandemic was that New York state law does require every place that serves alcohol to serve food. A lot of them didn't. But,
A lot of them did, yeah.
But
or if they did, it was like really shitty.
Really shitty. You know, we are going to be a coffee bar by day, and so it makes sense to have small bites. So that's something that Sam and I are still kind of like tinkering with, because we want it to be quality. We also don't have a kitchen. We have a coffee bar area. So it's a limited, you know, in New York, you're kind of strapped for square footage. So we're trying to make it as good as our cocktail menu. We also wanted to kind of transport you as well. So we love the idea of like getting empanadas, getting a cubano, having like, you know, patatas brava, something tapas-y. So we're kind of, we're still like putting the finishing touches on that. It'll be ready by the time that we're open.
Yeah.
But we want it to be thoughtful and you know, delicious.
Yeah,
And that, I was just going to say, it's also part of our, you know, partnering with other queer business owners. Daniel, we've been working with someone who came, we did a little press moment and had this company, the name Sweetwood,
Oh yeah, Sugarwood.
Sugarwood, and they were there, and they make genitalia shaped waffle treats. And so part of our food options,
And they're delicious.
Oh, yeah,
I
they're
have like
fantastic.
4.
yeah, they're incredible. And so we're also trying to find opportunities to partner with other small minority owned businesses that have clever food offerings that we can partner with.
Yeah,
Shortbread.
Sugarwood's really good. You tried to sit on one, didn't you?
Shut it down. We also were partnering with the Shortbread Society.
Yeah,
They're queer owned,
which is like a Scottish shortbread. Because the thing is that because we're a coffee bar, but really because we're a gay coffee bar, we're expecting that everyone's expecting quality. You know what I mean? Gays have a little tendency to be a little bitchy. So we want to make sure that we are offering the best that we can. You know, we don't really eat garbage, but
Quality
control, exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I know you mentioned that all bars in New York have to have a food element to them. And I'm sure there's some numbers involved with that. 20% of sales or something have to be from non-alcohol. There was a lot of states have done that over the years. And there was a couple of bars I'd been to in the past that used to do interesting things to get around that. So they would either have like a tiny little bowl of chips and a tiny bowl of pretzels on a table somewhere, and then they would charge a $5 cover to get in and say that it was for the buffet.
right?
So everybody that comes in automatically spends $5 for 2 pretzels and a potato chip. And that same bar also used to break out their drink prices. So if you order a rum and Coke, you got a rum and a Coke, and the Coke counted as food because it was not alcohol. So they were really pushing the envelope there. But I can tell from your plan that's, I mean, obviously the coffee shop itself should take care of your food requirement.
Yeah, well, in New York, there actually isn't any requirement on the sales, but it does need to be offered at any hour that you're open. But I'm kind of excited about being that place that somebody with the munchies at 3 a.m. is like, I'm gonna go get a delicious, empanada from RedEye, and then they come in and they're like, actually, I want an espresso martini too. Which is on the side, which is probably like a dangerous combo, depending on what your destination is for the rest of the evening. But like one of my favorite New York moments, unrelated to RedEye, was I went to this bar where it's connected to a roti shop, and so they were literally like passing like Indian roti through the wall. And I just love that's such a New York thing. You really like kind of find weird ways to make it work. And it's, like speaking to, not everyone loves alcohol. So I kind of love the idea that somebody like wants to come in and have food.
Well, and also when you're serving really strong, like espresso drinks, like when I get really caffeinated, I need to eat something. It kind of levels me out. You know what I mean? And so I feel like it's just a service that we should offer. Plus, people stick around longer when there's food options,
Right.
Just figuring out what food options really are great, because we've all been to a Starbucks and had to buy something because you're on the road and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get that little packet with an egg, a boiled egg, and a thing of peanut butter and a couple of apples.
And a raisin peanut.
Exactly. Like I kind of want to offer something that's like that, but a lot better.
I mean, I don't use coffee as my excuse. I'll just tell you straight out, I'm an eating gay. Like I've got no problem eating whenever. And like one of my favorite ones, there's a very famous dance club in Berlin, and at its highest point, it has a little tiny shop. You walk up these stairs and you can get anything from a smoothie to a vanilla ice cream to a turkey sandwich. And you will find me coming off the dance floor at like 6 o'clock in the morning to have half a turkey sandwich and an ice cream, and then back down and start dancing again.
Did you see that the Eagle was serving paella this week?
No, thank you.
Whoa.
I love the Eagle. I love paella. Those are not two
That's a
things.
dangerous thing if you got a bunch of people running around in chaps.
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
Nothing says sexy jockstrap like shellfish and rice.
So we've talked a little bit about the upstairs portion of it and the cafe, but you mentioned also the cockpit. So the cockpit sounds to me like something that is more up the alley of the kind of nitty gritty underground scene of New York from a couple of decades back.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's really stems from my idea of it was, and it wasn't just my idea, but I was at a party recently talking to a guy a few months ago, talking to these guys, and they were like, we just wanted to go out with our friends to have drinks. And every bar we stepped into in Hell's Kitchen, there was a drag queen on stage. And then when you're trying to talk to your friends, the drag queens are like, hey, listen or get out. It's like, we didn't pay for this. Like, I didn't sign up for this, Sam says. And so we thought we wanted a space where you could go hang out with your friends. It's like Adam said, sort of masculine, whatever that means to you. Could you close the refrigerator door, by the way? And sorry, I got distracted by that. And sort of doesn't have a lot of over programming. We're gonna do things like strip trivia, things like that are fun, but like not. You can still come in and talk. You know what I mean? And that's sort of, for me, that's what it is. It's sort of a bar that you could hose down at the end of the night. That is not fussy. Upstairs is going to be a little more that, a little bit more curated. Let's put it that way. Downstairs is real rough and tumble, like a bunker. I want to go there when World War III hits. I would actually.
More like a man cave.
Yeah, it's like a man cave. What are you speaking of, Taylor?
That's manhole.
That's manhole. Sorry.
So do you find that there's a different clientele? First of all, how long have you been open? I know you just haven't been open that long.
Actually, not even open yet. We just did a sneak peek for friends and family. So we're on the precipice of opening. It's actually like the day before New Year's is going to be our launch.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're very excited, but we're not open.
So we've been doing things like inviting people in for the coffee portion of it, or doing the live podcasts, or doing some photo shoots and stuff. But we're doing things sort of in increments before the big sort of New Year's week of stuff that we've going on. Jimmy James is doing a show here. You're familiar with Jimmy, right?
I am. I actually have a picture of myself with Jimmy James from, I think, 1988 in Atlanta, Georgia. And it scared me when I looked at it because I saw how my hair was kind of, very blonde and flipped up in the front, and my shirt was starched so much I could have cut my finger on it. So it kind of scared me looking at that picture. But yes, I've known Jimmy for quite a while, and I think he was interview number 2 or 3 in this series, and we're beyond 100 now. So
that's great. Wow, that's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's that, and then on the 30th New Year's Eve, we have a big orchestra that does like the music for Woody Allen films and Martin Scorsese films, and they're going to do like a little bit of an older from 7 until 10 o'clock at night, like a big band swing night, which is, from my experience, unheard of in the gay community. Like, I've never gone to an event like this, but we wanted to see the space used in a different way. We're kind of right now in a very experimental, like, let's try this. How did the podcast work live? And we're setting it all up so that we can really hit the ground running on New Year's.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we all 4 of us share in common is we all come from theater. We all have a theatrical background, and we've been producing events all over the city for decades now. And so it was really important to us when we built this space out that we were really serving the talent and the audience with how we're able to execute our programming. So I don't know how I got started on that, but
yeah, because we were talking about being open, and one thing that we also are working on, one of the reasons why it's taken so long, is that we've outfitted the entire space with live streaming capability. Daniel had mentioned earlier, one thing that they learned during the pandemic is, like, one, you don't know when you're not going to be able to be in person again. God willing, it never ever happens again. But the reality is that it's opened up a new avenue of being able to invite people in when they're not even in person. We were doing like drag race streaming parties, and we were amazed by people tuning in from all over the world. People would be waking up in Australia and joining us for a viewing of Drag Race, and this was like in the middle of the pandemic, and it was so cool, and it made us think like, oh wow, we don't just have to offer, you know, our programming to people who are with us here on 41st and 9th. They can tune in from Ohio, they can tune in from the other side of the globe. So we're excited to be able to offer everything that we're producing in person, also to be able to join us online. And you can check that out on our website,
Very
RedEyeNY.com.
cool. And that's RedEyeNY.com.
Yes.
So I'll have to make sure to put that in the credits as well, so people will see that. So I'm guessing, I don't know who it was, but it might have been Daniel, said you were open 21 hours a day. Is that correct? So is that from, let me guess here, 6 a.m. to 3 a.m.
So 7 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate being open, you know, by being open so early in the morning, that you're going to also pick up some Port Authority traffic, some people coming off, you know, into town and not gay, not caring, not looking for entertainment, but they just want a nice coffee and a place to chillax while they, you know.
Just the sex workers coming off shift.
Yeah, exactly.
That too.
No, I think definitely we'll have some walk up traffic, but because of this street, while it's like so incredibly located, like we're one block away from 42nd Street, like the busiest street in the world, but it's just tucked in enough where unless you're coming onto the street for a reason, like we're the only commercial space on this entire block. So everything else is like the post office, the backside of the post office. So not even where you would go as a patron, and the backside of Port Authority. So it's kind of tucked in this really cool way that we're so impossibly easy to get to. But unless you're coming here on purpose, you're probably not coming by this way, which I think, yes, we will inevitably have people walk in and come by and just check us out. But by and large, if you're coming here because you meant to.
I do need to clarify one thing, because you mentioned something that is a completely foreign concept to me. What exactly is a post office?
we haven't even talked about the history of the space, and that's actually really interesting, because we've gotten so much walk up from people who used to know you know, Tobacco Road, or
Port 41,
Bikini Bar,
called the Savoy,
a lot of people,
strip club.
Yeah, so all these people are coming up and they're like, oh my God, I used to dance here. This is where I got my start. Or, oh, I used to love the girls here. Are you bringing back the titty bar?
And both of those dead on style of people that Taylor's giving you are like 70 or 80. Like there was a while ago.
Oh yeah,
here.
A woman walked up and she was like, "This is where I got my start as a dancer. I was one of the first trans dancers in this area to really become popular, and I owe it all to this space. And I'm so excited to see that you guys are reopening." So
she's like princess something.
Yeah, we have all these people. We have all these people who are really excited to come back and kind of see this become a performance space again. To see it become like this
maybe
gritty.
You can kind of memorialize them a little bit. Ask her to bring you a picture of her from back in the day and start a wall of the history of the building. And, you know, just so people get to see that and know what, you know, what predates, you know, what it is now.
Oh, I went further. I asked her for a reprise performance.
Right. I think it would be so fun. We'll name a drink after him too.
There you go. So what else was in that space beside this city bar?
So it was LaFleur's, which was a gay strip club that I went to once. John LaFleur had this space on 42nd Street, and supposedly he was in exile for something happened on 42nd Street, right next to the Chinese restaurant around the corner where you get cigarettes. And he moved it into here for a while. It was LaFleur's. The Savoy was a jazz club. Bikini Bar, where all the waitresses or cocktail waitresses wore bikinis. And I came into that. It was also a rock club called Tobacco Road. I went once. They had an awful band playing in the back. No one's fault. We all suffered awful bands sometime in our life, right? But it was like it's a really cool space. It's gutted. I mean, it's the same sort of layout, but I mean, it's all new. Like we dug out the basement 4 feet to create the cockpit, which is how it got the pit part of it. You
And
know?
you did that personally? You were actually down there with a shovel.
No, I didn't touch dirt.
We we have actually, all of us have literally built the space out by hand. I mean, and that's been really rewarding. It's been challenging,
But
but
we didn't dig the basement.
no, but we literally have built the bars.
Yeah. But I think he's asking. I did not carry a bucket of dirt out. There were people doing it for like 4 months.
No, but we actually we've been involved in the construction every single step of the way, from like, we literally designed the space ourselves.
It's really cool to be able to do that, because we learned a lot from the mistakes that clubs have made that we've been in. So a lot of clubs won't give up the retail space for a dressing room because it's like whatever. So then you hear these drag queens tell stories of having to get ready in the public bathroom. So
Or
you
in
go
their car. Well, that doesn't apply in New York City, but down here
well,
we
or
have,
in the cab. I mean, because they're usually hitting on the driver, so they're double duty.
Well, it also it allows us to extend that idea of saying that we're a safe space by really encompassing everything you need to. I mean,
right.
people can be in their, their boy dress or however they prefer to be in the real world and get themselves safely. Or, there's these horror stories of drag queens not being able to hail a cab at 4:15 in the morning when they're done at the bar or something, or at the
Right.
performance place. Whereas, we offer a place for you to wash your face, where you can shower after the show, and put everything back into a suitcase and just leave like you're leaving Port Authority.
And we have an apartment upstairs. We take in the 4 apartments upstairs. So where we're right now is an apartment that we took, which has what we're sitting on, basically a trundle bed for guests. So if like a queen gets too drunk, or we get someone from out of town, they can literally stay. Jimmy's going to be staying here. Jimmy James stayed right upstairs.
Yeah,
I
we're
want
bird.
to say, I'm a little bit disappointed. Next time you go through this adventure, I think the 4 of you should all dress like Dorothy from Kansas and have a little pink bucket with a spoonful of dirt prancing up to the sidewalk as a promo picture for, you're going to dig this place or something. But
Well,
you got
instead of Toto, we have Tabasco.
Right, exactly.
Tabasco is our little
That's our
Toto.
photo. Exactly. That's very funny though. No, we do have stewardess outfits, which we haven't been able to wear yet, which we can't wait to sort of just be like, come fly with us,
Except
Yeah,
you're not going to be
there's-
using flashlights or anything. I can imagine they're going to be more latex oriented.
flashlights.
Flashlights. There you go. There you go. And they're going to say RedEye on the side, right?
Exactly.
But
I
I mean-
can tell you've done a great job, and everybody that's watching this video, that picture behind you of the bar makes it look just huge. I mean, that space looks cavernous from.
This is the Belvedere. You're joking.
Yeah.
You're joking. This is the
Yeah.
Belvedere, actually. The Belvedere on Fire Island in Cherry.
Uh-huh.
I was bequeathed this by an artist that died recently. He was older, and he took pictures of the Belvedere. So we like.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to ask each one of you individually. I'll just call out your name and ask you to tell me what your personal favorite thing about the RedEye is. It could be the space, it could be the drinks, it could be the entertainment, it could be the coffee, whatever. And we're going to start with Taylor. What's your favorite thing?
That is a good question. I'm going to say the
Yeah.
company, just because at the end of the day, it's about who you're with. That's one of my favorite parts of nightlife, is I get to hang out with amazing people, amazing staff, amazing patrons, and my business partners. This has been a very trying few years of, it's been actually 2 years in the making, getting this up, but it's been a joy getting to work with them and create something that I think is going to last a really, really long time and bring joy to other people. So it's the company for me.
What about you, Adam?
For me, it kind of ties in with Taylor, but I'll try to give you a different answer. For me, it's the completion of it all. I'm very, I don't know if my actions are practical, but my mind works practically. So I deal a lot with the architects and the drawings and where the lights are supposed to go and the power loads and the plumbing, and seeing it all actually being completed. And we've really had to lean on some very talented and wonderful friends that have become family and part of this crew. Everything from our lighting people and our sound techs and all their knowledge they have of different clubs. So it's really, as we forever pushed towards the finish line, and no club's really ever done. The patrons kind of let you know, like, oh, maybe this would be a better idea, or this door over here, or if this wasn't a bath, sort of things like that. But for me, it's really seeing what was in our mind's eye becoming something very tangible and real.
And Sam?
Yeah, I think what I am most excited about is the versatility of the space. We talked about how it can function in so many different ways. And at the end of the day, we're here to create community. I think that's what brings us all to this business. And we have created a space that really addresses something for everybody. Not every party is for everybody. Not everyone's going to like a particular talent. But if you don't like this show, you'll probably love the one that's on tomorrow night. Or if you don't like to go out to shows, you like to sit and have some coffee, there really is going to be an opportunity for everybody to get something out of this space. And I think there's something really, really special to that.
Wow. And least but not last, wait a minute, that wasn't right. Last but not least, Daniel, what is it that you love about RedEye?
I have to say, podcasts, it's what got me through COVID. It was 2 years ago yesterday that this idea of a podcast station came to me, because Sam and I were working on a serial podcast for Audible with Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I just was really inspired by the medium. And I just thought, what an exciting thing. I've already said this before, but the idea of doing it live. So I pitched it to Audible. I said, why don't we do live podcasts here? And they were very into the idea. And I just think there's something really cool about it. No one's doing it really. I mean, no gay bar that I know is doing it. I mean, they will be soon, but there's no one really doing it. And it's a fun medium for me, and it's just new. I mean, I've done shows, I've done sexy parties, I've done, most everything we're doing, I've done already, but I've never programmed podcasts and got to be radio's the coolest thing to me. So that's kind of, for me, the most exciting part. Yeah.
And the podcast thing you mentioned, the one silver lining that I can see, maybe two, but the one primarily from COVID is that it introduced us to formats like Zoom. Yeah. Before that, it was kind of awkward to do teleconferencing, and everybody had a different program they used, and they were all kind of sketchy. But Zoom kind of came to the rescue during COVID and made all this possible, where we can pretty much communicate with anybody in the world for next to nothing, just with a computer and a webcam or a smartphone. Yeah. And it connected us so well. And as you know, during COVID, I've done over 100 of these interviews. So I've spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people that I would not have connected with without that, that format. And I think the other thing is it also made us appreciate, I think we were getting very lackadaisical about the importance of gay spaces, about, gay bars and gay restaurants and coffee shops and community in general. I don't need that. I can see a gay guy at the mall. I can see a gay guy at Applebee's, whatever. And suddenly when COVID shut everything down, we realized, hey, we missed that part of our life. We want that back. And so I think it's helping people like you who had the foresight to start planning this a couple of years ago to come in now that the COVID scare has kind of died down somewhat and people are starting to return to normalcy, and to bring us, some fresh ideas and fresh blood in the gay entertainment scene. So,
well, I said it a lot during COVID, and I meant it, which was, it was a rare time in New York. Sure, the city was really suffering, but rents were really low. Commercial rents were really low. The city was empty. Like, it was a really wild time to be in New York. But I said it's an amazing time. Everyone complains that there are not enough it's hard to start a business. It's hard to start a business. But it was a time where it was actually a lot easier to get a lease. It was easy to get an apartment. I mean, really easy to get an apartment. I had friends who could get into buildings that you could never get into, and I just thought it was an amazing time to reinvent what we know nightlife to be to some degree, and reinvent what we consider gay spaces to be, not just gay, but for me, it was a gay space. And so it was an exciting time. I mean, I hope we never have to go through it again, but it was a really good time to reinvent ourselves. And that's kind of what we did. Sam and Taylor went from being bartenders to becoming owners in that time. It was, I'm sure they'll regret it in a few months if they didn't already.
Yeah.
Oh. So when you went looking for the space to actually start this bar, were you looking specifically in that neighborhood? I know Hell's Kitchen has kind of jumped out of nowhere, becoming the new kind of mecca for some sort of revitalization. There's another gay bar that's a block or two away from you that opened during COVID, and there's a few others that have allegedly been planned to pop up in there. Were you looking to be in that neighborhood, or was it just an opportunity that you looked at the building and the opportunity and said, this is it?
Yeah, well, we had actually seen this space many years ago. At one of our prior clubs, we were just kind of kicking around the idea of expanding and opening up a second location. And we had seen this space, and we, there was a lot about it that we liked, but for whatever reason, we just didn't pursue it. And we started looking down in the East Village, which is where other spaces were. And, we saw a couple of places, spaces that had, really cool bones or promise. And we were just kind of, at that point, we thought we were village people. And so that's where we were kind of looking. And then just one day I was like, wait a minute, whatever happened to that space on 41st? And Daniel made the call, and we came up, and it just was the perfect timing.
Yeah.
Where the landlord, the owner of the building, was there, and we were just able to bend their ear and kind of tell them what we hadn't planned, and then just like that.
Yeah, it was really great too, because the owner of the building, obviously he has his financial interest in mind, and he said everyone that had been pitching taking the space over once it was built out, they were saying, oh, we'll put a pool table over there. And he was like, you guys came in with like a plan, you know what I mean? So that, and he wants to make sure he gets his rent. And I understand. And you want the man with the plan, or the men with the plan, you know what I mean? As opposed to, well, we'll just put a, pool. There's nothing wrong with it. Love a good bar or the pool table. But I think he was looking at, okay, these guys are gonna do a lot. And then that's when he said, hey, what about digging out the basement? And we said, let's go, Thelma, drive off that cliff.
That's the bucket.
Exactly. And then that's when we started the process of digging. The basement probably is why we're a year behind schedule.
Did you have to go and rent a vintage Thunderbird convertible to go over that cliff, or?
No, right? Exactly. That's funny.
So who do you envision your clientele to be primarily when you open? Who do you think is going to be most attracted to your space?
Oh, that's a good
God,
question.
hopefully people with disposable income.
I see horse-hung bottoms in them. Just
With an
kidding.
Eastern European
No, I mean,
accent.
it's kind of what I was saying earlier, about there's
That was
really
supposed
something
to be
here for everybody. So this is a queer space. We're all queer owners. Most of our programming is going to be queer oriented. That would be naturally who, would come and attend these events and be a part of it, but, the whole queer spectrum, the whole gambit, we want to have programming for everybody, and we have, any slot of the day are, different vibes. So, anyone who, fits into the queer spectrum, including allies, like that's who we want to create the space for.
And the idea is that you do have people in the queer community that will kind of self-segregate. You have the people that will be
Right.
closer to the door by the coffee bar. You'll have the people that won't leave the dance floor. And so the idea is that there's an area in one space for every type of person to be. And the hope of offering a space to those people is you can also offer them possibly a mind opening or a learning curve possibility that maybe that person that always sits in the bar and gabs with their friends will venture downstairs and, let their freak flag fly. Or, the person that doesn't think they can dance will have enough coffee in them that they just can't stop moving. And, you kind of choose your own adventure and find something out about yourself,
I think that's an important thing these days. I've noticed a lot of the newer bars that are just beginning to open, and even some of the older bars that have been around for a while, have kind of adopted that philosophy. I interviewed the owner of the Atlanta Eagle about 2 weeks ago, and the Atlanta Eagle had been closed for 2 years because of a combination of COVID closure and then a dispute with the landlord. and they were closed for a total of about 2 years, and they finally reopened in October of this year, the weekend of Atlanta Pride. And it's interesting to watch his new concept now in this newer, bigger bar, which is in a more direct path. The shopping plaza they're located in has 3 other gay bars and half a dozen gay businesses, all in this one little shopping strip. And the new Eagle in Atlanta will now have early drag shows. I think they're at 9:30 at night. They'll have a more diverse crowd. They have, when they did their Mr. Eagle contest, they also have a Ms. Eagle contest. So there are women that will come into the bar. They're very accepting of the bear and the pup community. They have things for a lot of different people. They have a huge outdoor patio now, or outdoor area where people can congregate. And so a lot of people were giving them grief about, oh, an eagle with a dance floor? Oh, an eagle with a drag show? And that's really the kind of trend of the future. You kind of have to, allow for more diversity, or you're probably going to smother yourself into oblivion.
That's what I said about morphing. You got to look at the market and say, the leather community is not growing. It's not a growing community. So it's like they have to diversify and get inclusive and bring more people into it. Then maybe it will grow. But it's, as it were, things like the Black Party no longer exist. You know what I'm saying? It got a little, the Eagle got really, the one in New York anyway, was really stuck in like a doldrums. And then they reinvented it. And they're doing really well now. So it's just about kind of looking at the market, looking what the world wants and following it.
And like at the one in Atlanta, by doing the drag shows early, he can accommodate people who are older, that don't want to be out at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning watching a drag show. And the Eagle bars typically didn't get busy until 11 o'clock anyway. That's when the crowd starts coming out and really partying. So he kept the bar, more busy and offered an alternative to other people who can then be exposed to people in the leather community, people in the pup community, and so on, and kind of, as you said, find their way and figure out which letter of that alphabet soup they want to identify with or feel comfortable with. Which, by the way, I think maybe you should consider creating a vegetable or an alphabet soup and just put the LGBTQ, have somebody separate the letters out so you can
separate them. I'll just
although I'm not sure, are there any letters that are eliminated from that acronym? I'm not sure.
There's LGBTQAI plus.
There's a P for pansexual. There's
I think that's under the plus.
N
I
for
think
non-binary.
I think that you just eat the whole vegetable soup, eat the whole.
It's a funny idea though.
It's good.
The alphabet soup is having those letters. But it'd be more fun is finding that person with OCD that would take out the letters that don't fit.
You could have a contest.
At our party, we always ask at the door, top, bottom, reverse. So I kind of like that. It's like, and you get a stamp,
bottom reverse
on Fire Island, which is really fun. And
the idea is that it kind of gets people talking to each other. If I look over and see someone's hand and it says top, I'm like, ignore her. No kidding. Or I go up and say, hey sis, let's go find the bottom.
Well, it sounds like y'all have a really good plan there. Like you're well underway to getting open. And I am definitely looking forward to seeing RedEye for myself next time I'm in New York, which I assure you, from my own personal perspective, would not be until at least June because I'm a Florida boy. And, it's a chilly 68 degrees when you get up in the morning here. We just can't take that kind of stuff. But
on Thursday, it's going to be 60 degrees.
We have long-term plans to potentially do something like this on a different scale, like looking at the market, but in Florida. I love the idea of it. Miami's a little bit more me, but I love the idea. Wilton Manors makes more sense for the business.
It does.
But I see something like this, obviously.
So I was just having a conversation with someone about Wilton Manors, and the unique thing about Wilton Manors, and I know Daniel especially will be able to relate to this because he's about 5 or 10 minutes older than the other guys there.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Yeah,
just a
watch has been broken for 3 decades.
But back in the day, there used to be gayborhoods that you went to, like the Village in New York City, where virtually everything around you was gay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of diminishing. We're not seeing that anymore. Even places like West Hollywood, which were like flamboyantly gay, are
Right.
gentrifying more and becoming more,
Even
mixed.
Philadelphia, San Francisco, they've lost their
But
gay.
Wilton Manors, it's only a little 2-mile long piece of land. I mean, it's smaller than Key West. But Wilton Manors, within a 2-mile radius of the first gay bar that really opened there, which was Georgie's Alibi, within a 2-mile radius, there's, I think, 22 gay alcoholic beverage establishments
Right.
in
Right.
that small little circle, in a place that only has maybe 12 or 15,000 occupants, residents there. So it's kind of an anomaly in the world of gay these days. And I think that would
Oh,
be
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
that would be a great place to consider opening a second one.
Yeah, when I was at Wilton Manors, that was a really good example. Is I went every morning for coffee. I was staying right in Wilton Manors, and I had a hard time. I found one place eventually, but I didn't find a place that was. I didn't find my spot. Wherever I go on a trip, I always find my
Right.
coffee that I go to in the morning. I didn't find that, and then I thought, wow, this would be a great place to open that kind of.
Yeah. I stay 2 doors.
I just didn't find it.
I stayed 2 doors off the drive, and the last time I was there, and I ended up going to, I think it was called the Courtyard Cafe, which is like a mom and pop type restaurant, to have my coffee. No baristas, nothing fancy, but it's because that's the only thing that I saw right there. So I agree with you. I think something like a RedEye would be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. So I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to talk to me about your new venture. And anybody that's interested, you'll be able to find it on the www.redeyeny.com. And we'll post all of their other social media stuff at the end as well. So thank you, Taylor, Sam, Daniel, and Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, honey.
See you
We'll
soon.
next year.
That concludes another episode of the GayBarchives Show. For more information about this episode or to find more episodes, visit GayBarchives.com.